Today we're going to be taking a look at a Warlock build for the Grandmaster this week. It is double loot, it is double rep, so this is a perfect time for you guys to get into the Grandmasters. So I think this build is going to make it very easy for you to be able to get in there, get some fast completions with your Warlock, and pretty much get everything that you want from the Grandmasters this week. Especially if you're going to be heading into LFG this week for those completions. This is a build that's going to be amazing for it. You're going to be able to deal with all the champions, do a ton of ad clear, as well as just constantly spam supers and use arc abilities. Another important things that you're gonna need for this build are gonna be the Crown of Tempest, Exotic Helmet, and also the Darcy or Thunderlord. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about them once we actually get to the weapons. But anyways, let's not waste any more time, let's get into the build. And first, let's start by taking a look at our exotics. So let's start off with our exotic piece of armor, and this time we're gonna be using the Crown of Tempest Exotic Helmet. Now the Crown of Tempest essentially is used so we can spam abilities, and also so we can spam supers with it, thanks to this exotic perk. Whenever we get some arc ability Final Blows or Jolt Final Blows, it increases the recharge rate of our arc abilities, and it also extends the duration of our STORMTRACE. So our super is gonna last longer, and we're also gonna be regenerating our abilities much faster at ×3, which is something that you can easily get with this build. We're gonna be getting 502% recharge rate on our abilities. Yes, you heard that right, 502%. And that combined with the recent changes to the roaming supers, where they do more damage against champions, as well as just being able to get them faster, leads you to pretty much just being able to spam Transcendence and a bunch of supers. Where basically you just go from Transcendence spam to super spam to Transcendence spam again. It is a beautiful thing. Now moving on to our exotic weapon. First I started off with the Darcy. I figured that it being able to jolt targets, it would be able to proc my Crown of Tempest, so we'll be getting abilities faster with the Darcy, and it would be able to put on some pretty decent damage against some of the bigger enemies, which it did. But since this build actually ended up being able to spam more abilities than I predicted, most of the time I just kinda ended up using it for damage against some of the champions, which it did do some pretty nice damage, but I definitely did not end up using it for its jolting capabilities, which was like my main draw to it. So the Darcy still ended up working pretty well with the build. I didn't actually end up needing it as much as I thought I was gonna. So I would say you could switch over the Darcy to either the Grand Overture or the Thunderlord. But I definitely feel like I lean a little bit more towards the Thunderlord. It has a lot of ammo, it has the AoE with the lightning strikes, it can stun the overloads just normally, and thanks to some other mods it can also stun the unstoppables, so you pretty much get everything in just one package. But any of these three heavy weapons are going to be pretty good for this build, and are going to work pretty well with it. Now for the other weapons that we're also going to be running on this build, for the kinetic slot, I say that you want to run a Lost Signal. This is gonna be so we can get a bunch of Darkness Transcendence energy, so we can spam our Transcendence even more, and also because it's a grenade launcher, so it applies debuffs, and it just makes things easier to kill. But most of the time we're gonna use this to get as much Darkness Transcendence energy as we can. If you see a big enemy, just shoot the grenade launcher at it, and just get a ton of energy from it. And this is gonna help us to spam that Transcendence, so we can use ways to spam abilities. And for your energy slot, I recommend that you go with a pulse rifle. The best one I would definitely say is Vantage Point, the one from this season, so you can stop the unstoppables, and also because it can get jolting feedback, and that works pretty well with our build. Even if we're not gonna be using it all that much, it definitely still helps, especially when we just can't get close enough to the enemies, like in some situations in this GM. There's just some enemies that are really far away that is just easier to kill them with the pulse rifle, like just run all the way across the map to like hit them with our melee. So this is gonna be fantastic for that. And also for stopping those unstoppables, if you just want an easy, quick way of doing that. Now for our subclass, we are going to be on the Prismatic Warlock, plus on the super, we're going to be on the STORMTRACE, since that works with the exotic. And the STORMTRACE actually ended up surprising me. You stay in it for so long with the Crown of Tempest, that you can pretty much run through so many waves of ads with it. You can pop it very often too, thanks to the changes, and also the increased regen for the Crown of Tempest. So do not hold on to this super. Basically just pop it whenever you see a chance to. Now for our class ability, I had the Phoenix Dive, since I really like the Phoenix Dive. We're always going to be on the move, and it gives us a quick way to heal, although I don't think I even used it during the GM, since we were healing mostly from abilities. For our melee, we are going to be on the Arcane Needles, just because we get 3 charges for our melee, and that's really like the only reason. I don't think I actually ever use the Needles normally, it's just so we can get those 3 melee charges. Now for our grenade, we are going to be on the Storm Grenade. This is gonna be really good. It's very good at killing like groups of enemies when they're spawning. You throw it into like an enemy spawn, and it pretty much kills everything. Does a ton of damage, and thanks to one of our fragments, it's also going to be jolting targets, so it's going to be able to kill things even better. Now, for our two aspects, we're going to have Lightning Surge and Feed the Void. The Devourer is pretty much good on enemy build, especially builds that spam a lot of abilities like this one. Basically, anytime that we get some kills, we're just going to be getting some health back, which is really good since a lot of times in this build, we're going to be just surrounded by enemies, just constantly spamming abilities. So this is pretty much like a must-have to keep us alive, and also so we can spam even more abilities. Any kills that we get with the Lightning Surge is going to proc our exotic, the Crown of Tempest, meaning that we can get abilities back faster, as well as our super. It's going to make orbs, it's going to proc Devour, it's going to apply Jolt, meaning that it can also even stop those overload champions. A lot of times, I actually just constantly use Lightning Surge on a champion till it pretty much died, including just killing everything around them. It is fantastic with the amount of regen we get because of the Crown of Tempest, that we're just constantly just lightning surging all over the place. This is pretty much like a melee build that just happens to super and spam abilities a lot. Now moving on to the fragments, the first one we're going to have is going to be the Facet of Protection, and this is going to give us some damage resistance whenever we're surrounded. This is 15% at base and 25% whenever we transcend, and this is going to be amazing. We're always going to be in the middle of just a bunch of enemies with our Lightning Surge. We always want a bit of extra survivability, and that's exactly what Facet of Protection actually gives us. After that, we are going to have the Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage gives you melee energy, and rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage gives you grenade energy. This is going to be another way for us to get our abilities back faster, and most of the time from this, we're going to be getting some melee energy, which is pretty much what we want anyways. We are going to get some grenade energy out of it as well, but just definitely not as much. Next up, we're going to have the Facet of Sacrifice. Whenever we have our Devour or our Radiant, we're going to be able to get some bonus Transcendence energy from ability kills. And since most of the kills we're going to be getting are going to be ability kills, this is definitely going to help us build that Transcendence meter even faster so we can spam again more Transcendence. This fragment plus the Grenade Launcher give you tons of Darkness Transcendence energy. After that, we're going to have the Facet of Dawn. Power melee hits against enemies make you Radiant. Since we are going to be spamming a lot of melees, we're constantly going to be Radiant, so whenever we do have to actually use our weapons are going to do some extra damage. And for the final fragment, we are going to have the Facet of Dominance, which is going to let our grenades jolt targets. This is going to work for both our normal grenade, our storm grenade, and also our prismatic grenade. So both of them are going to be fantastic for this, and it just gives an extra way of dealing damage, dealing with ads, or just jolting targets. Now we're here on the artifact, and these are the things that we're going to need. Overload Grenade Launcher, Authorized Mods Melee, as well as Unstoppable Pulse Rifle. The take of it is also really good. It's going to give us an armor charge just by getting rapid find of blows while surrounded, which is pretty much all the time. So this is going to give us a very easy way to get some armor charge. Trace Evidence is going to be another easy way to get some armor charge as well, because every time we kill some targets affected by Jolt, we also get armor charge. So these two work really well together. Retinal Burn is not necessary, but it does work on your Pulse Rifle, so it was pretty good. And if you go Thunderlord, definitely put it on. Concussive Reload, it's a must-have. It applies the weaken with the Grenade Launcher, and that's always what we want. Also, the two finisher mods, Debilitating Wave, as well as Total Carnage. Total Carnage is going to give us some damage resistance, and then Debilitating Wave is going to do some damage around basically when we finish. Now let's take a look at the armor mods that we're running, and first let's start off with the helmet. On the helmet, we're going to have Harmonic Siphon, so we can make some orbs with our arc weapons, as well as two hands-on mods, so we can also get some extra super energy. We're going to be getting lots of melee kills, so this is really going to help us. For the melee, we're going to have two heavy-handed mods, as well as a kickstart mod. So with two of them, we're actually going to have like a 3 to 4 second cooldown in between being able to make orbs with our melee kills, which is pretty good. You could actually just get rid of kickstart if you wanted and go at triple heavy-handed, and then you wouldn't have a cooldown at all. But I think the extra melee energy that we get from melee kickstart, especially with all the armor charge we're getting, is definitely worth it. Now, for the chest piece, you want to go 2 void resistances, and then the last one can be whichever you want, really. I had arc, but you could also go solar, because there's a bit of solar damage as well in the strike, but arc and solar are both. Now for the boots, you want recuperation to get some extra healing from the orbs. Absolution, so you can get some ability energy back whenever you pick up orbs, and Invigoration so you can get some extra ability energy specifically for your melee. And lastly, for the class item, we're gonna have Bomber, Proximity Ward, and Distribution. Distribution and Bomber are gonna help us get our abilities back faster if we do use a class ability, and then Proximity Ward just gives us safer finishers. Whenever we do a finisher, we get an overshield, and afterwards we get that damage resistance as well as doing the damage around enemies. So overall, it's just gonna help with the mods that are running, and it makes just doing finishers a lot safer. And with that, it's actually gonna be the end of the build. Now you guys know everything that's in this build, and like always, there will be a dim link in the comments and also in the description below in case you guys want to use this build for yourself. And if you do end up using it, make sure you guys come back here and tell me what you guys thought about it, and if you made some changes, tell me about those changes as well in the comments below, and how you made this build, you know, yours by modifying it. Now the gameplay loop for this build is pretty fun, and it's also pretty simple. All you want to do is spam your abilities, including your lightning surge most of all, and essentially just keep up that buff in the Crown of Tempest. The higher it's up, the more regen you get, the faster you can get your abilities back, and the more ability spam that you can do. Make sure that you also shoot your grenade launcher whenever you see a big target, so you can get a bunch of like Darkness Transcendence energy, so you can get your Transcendence, and so you can spam even more lightning surge. Whenever you get your super, pop it right away, especially if you see a big enemy. You're going to be getting it back so much faster that there's no point in actually holding on to it. For a couple of times, I didn't use it as much as I could. I actually was just lightning surging all over the place, but I definitely could have used it some more to deal with that, to deal with some of the bigger enemies. You get it back so quickly that there's no point really in just holding back on like the super, especially because it's mostly great against like clearing rooms instead of just doing boss damage. So definitely use it as much as you can, and I definitely think that you're gonna have a very fun time with this build. I actually just set out to make a GM build, but I think we actually may have found one of the most fun arc builds now with the new mods and the new changes. So hopefully you guys like it. But let me know in the comments below what do you guys think about this build, and if you guys are going to be grinding GMs this week. Are you trying to get some materials? Are you trying to get the weapon? What are you trying to look for this week? I appreciate everyone stopping by today and checking out the video. The support has been amazing since the start of the season, so keep it up, boys. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make the 50k one day. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.